Following a brutal jail ambush, breaking artist Ty's son King Harris went from showing off on Instagram to bleeding out in an intensive care unit. This wasn't just any battle. As the guards pulled him, the cameras cut off and the fists flew. This was a well-planned blockbuster, reminiscent of a prison drama on Netflix. This is where the twist lies. Ty is said to be on his knees, phoning courts, pleading with lawmakers, even while King lies there fighting for his life, attempting to get his son out alive by making backroom negotiations. Consider that. The self-declared ruler of the South was forced to make an unprecedented plea. The question that is currently ripping the internet apart is whether King was attacked because of his last name, his conceit, or the fact that he knows secrets that could reveal the Harris empire. Hold tight, because what I'm about to reveal will make you doubt all you believed you understood survival, family, and celebrity. The Harris family name, which was previously synonymous with money, fame, and celebrity status, was certain to clash with reality at some point. And that encounter occurred within the harsh, icy walls of a Georgia prison in the most repulsive manner imaginable. After a vicious ambush within his jail block, King Harris, the son of rap artists T and Tiny, who formerly lived a life surrounded by limos, reality TV cameras, and private cooks, was taken directly into the intensive care unit. Take a moment to consider that. In a hospital bed, the child who flaunts chains on Instagram is now flaunting stitches. I don't know what sounds more like a vicious story twist than that. The ICU wasn't where the story began. No, this catastrophe has been building for years. King has always been the young man who wanted to demonstrate his commitment to that way of life. Do you recall his notorious 2022 breakdown at Waffle House? Playing gangster in front of a plate of hash browns, yelling at staff, and threatening to throw hands. For days, he was ridiculed on social media with comments like, "Bro, you grew up in Buckethead, not the trenches." That episode alone demonstrated to the world that he wasn't prepared for the smoke he was directing at himself. When we fast forward to the present, insiders claim that the same haughtiness that made him go live with mountains of money painted a target behind bars on his back. Let's go back. King was just going to get a slap on the wrist for missing court appearances and acting out, but things got out of hand when those old warrants turned up again. DUI accusations, careless driving, and license suspension. Errors kept piling up like Jenga blocks that were about to fall apart. King was booked when the police eventually apprehended him, and reality struck like a freight train. He was no longer live on Instagram. He was imprisoned in a cell among individuals who didn't give a damn about his father. And the nightmare started there. Insiders claim that King carried himself with the same confidence he displayed outside of prison. Claiming that his last name made him invincible, he was loud, arrogant, and constantly striving to prove himself. But none of that counts when you're behind those walls. CLUD doesn't purchase security. Respect is not assured by fame. Actually, it has the opposite effect. It increases your vulnerability. The sharks begin to circle when a celebrity enters. King was perfect bait, according to one ex-inmate who said, "They want to break you down, test you, or use you as a pawn." The rumors claim that the ambush wasn't arbitrary. According to reports, some prisoners planned it for weeks. Why? Due to King's incessant flexing. According to reports, he boasted about his father's business, claimed to be the legitimate successor to Atlanta, and even made fun of other prisoners. Pouring gasoline into a room full of matches is analogous to that. Tension simmered, animosity grew, and then the time came when the cameras conveniently turned dark. Fists flew, boots landed, and King was left bleeding, barely conscious, and his fame was quickly taken away. Even the guards were astonished by its savagery. According to sources, as mayhem broke out throughout the block, they were forced to haul him out. His face was so swollen that it was unrecognizable by the time he arrived at the hospital. The next stop was the ICU. That phone call must have been the worst thing ever for Ty. After building an empire, fighting federal lawsuits, and beating the streets, the man now finds out that his son is fighting for his life because he can't keep out of trouble. Consider the irony. The father is pleading with the system to release his kid before it kills him after warning him live on Instagram that jail was waiting for him. The plot becomes even more sinister at this point. According to insiders, King's haughtiness wasn't the only factor. Some claim it had anything to do with a botched contraband trade. It has been reported that King's name appeared in a prison ledger. In prison, broken commitments are repaid in blood. A promise was made, a deal was bungled. One unsettling element is that minutes before the attack, CCTV footage in the vicinity inexplicably stopped. Georgia's Department of Corrections attributed it to a technical issue. Let's face it though, no one is buying that reason. In the candid words of one of T.I.'s former road managers, cameras in Georgia break when they need to. Social media, meanwhile, exploded. Twitter trended hashtags like I'd pray fork and Dodge a Harris-F family catastrophe as soon as word spread that King had been attacked. TikTok was overrun, including videos of reactions. Fans pleaded for him to get better. Others cruelly made fun of him. "You can't buy respect with your daddy's money." Another comment that went viral said, "King finally met the real world, and it punched harder than he ever imagined." The online division was stark, with half of the world viewing a victim. The Harris family was having a breakdown at home, while the other half witnessed karma in action. Tia hadn't slept since the attack, according to insider rumors. He was trying to pull strings over the phone with politicians, attorneys, and even old street contacts. However, Tiny was allegedly in crisis command mode, requesting assistance from public relations firms, controlling the media's spin, and attempting to protect their younger children from the chaos. However, sources close told the family that the strain was causing them to drift apart. According to one insider, they are pointing fingers. Ty accuses Tiny of being too soft, and Tiny accuses Ty of being too hard. In any case, their son is suffering as a result. Not to mention how the general public views it. Ty positioned himself for years as the father who taught his children from his own mistakes, the mentor, and the wise OG. However, witnessing King's tumble out this way is ruining that reputation. The guy who publicly scolded his son is now the same man who is seeing him fall into the trap he warned him about. According to harsh online criticism that read, "All that talking and he still couldn't save his own kid." That is humiliating in addition to being painful. However, the actual question that remains unanswered is straightforward. Was King attacked based solely on his identity? Or is this a part of a bigger plot to destroy the Harris family as a whole? Consider it. Drama has always surrounded the Harris name. Gossip turns into ammunition in the form of litigation, controversies, and those persistent trafficking rumors that Ty and Tiny have battled to suppress while incarcerated. And King, who had a target painted on his back, entered. Despite the brutality of the prison ambush, many people think it was just the beginning of a larger conflict. Because vultures begin to circle when a family of this prominence is thrown into disarray. The vultures aren't finished yet, according to the murmurs. As if the nightmare couldn't get any worse. Insider accounts, anonymous sources, and assertions that this attack was more than a jail brawl began to surface. It was a setup, a warning, a message. According to the rumors, King Harris wasn't only flashing his muscles and running his mouth during the ambush. No, this was larger. Much larger. Speculation started to circulate that the attack was meticulously planned by influential people inside and beyond the prison gates, not by haphazard inmates. Some claim that Ty himself received the message. A harsh reminder that once the system had his son under its control, not even his wealth, fame, or influence could save him. This is where reality began to seem more sinister than fiction, so if you think it sounds like a screenplay for a movie, fasten your seatbelt. They wanted it known that King Harris wasn't prepared for this, and one insider close to the prison told reporters off the record, it wasn't just a fight. They set him up. According to that report, jail personnel turned their heads away when the ambush occurred. Consider that. To send a message, guards allegedly allowed a hip-hop mogul's son to be trampled out. If that's the case, this goes beyond simple carelessness. It is the pinnacle of corruption. The worst part is still to come. When King was hurried, he reportedly said, "Tell my pops this ain't over. Tell him I know who's behind it," as he was taken to the hospital battered and bleeding. If accurate, his remarks completely upended the internet. To whom was he referring? A competing family, another prisoner, or someone connected to his father's own dubious past? It was the query that went viral on social media. All of a sudden, this was more than a jail tale. With the Harris name at its core, it was a full-fledged conspiracy investigation. Hashtags such as freaking, "Are Ty exposed," and "Prayer for Harris" trended back-to-back on Twitter. TikTok investigators pieced together scenes from King's past Instagram lives and connected his arrogant actions to the karma he is currently dealing with. One message went viral, bringing up the notorious Falcons game where Tip put King in a headlock and slit it while King was comatose in the intensive care unit. Millions of views and hours were spent on the caption, "Daddy warned him." The streets confirmed it. However, the fury grew along with the number of memes. Some supporters said that King's last name was the reason the system singled him out. He wasn't flexing, according to one unnamed insider. The goal was to silence him. Too many receipts, too much chatter. That alone sparked a flurry of speculation on YouTube about whether King had been forced to keep quiet about more serious family troubles or had simply stumbled upon knowledge. Remember, there has always been a stigma associated with this family's name. Not to be overlooked is the ominous cloud that has been pursuing Ty and Tiny for many years. Those who are still there charges of human trafficking, they never completely vanished. They were ignored and denied, but they were always mentioned in passing. People began to make connections after learning that their son had been attacked while inside. But what if it wasn't a random event? What if this had something to do with those old skeletons, an unpaid debt, a botched deal, or vengeful enemies? Now, according to reports, he completely lost it. He has been asking for every favor he can find, according to people close to him. Lawyers, legislators, and even former street friends are attempting to ensure King's safety. However, it becomes dirtier the further he pulls. According to a source in Atlanta, you don't want that in prison. Every call he makes, every promise he makes, it's just shining a bigger spotlight on King inside. Makes you a target with the dark behind me. However, people are reportedly crying later, just when they thought the night couldn't get much worse. An anonymous account was closed. According to insiders, she is sobbing uncontrollably and pleading with Ty to stop before things become worse. He's not hearing it though, Ty. He is an enraged man who will not let up until his son is free. King's resolve might either save him or cause him to suffer further harm. Darker rumors, meanwhile, were circulating through the jail hallways. Word got out that King had been betrayed, not merely ambushed. He was apparently set up by certain prisoners who made friends with him first, tricking him into believing he had allies. Then they struck at the appropriate moment. Even more terrifying are the rumors that his name appeared in a contraband ledger connected to an unsuccessful transaction. That's like putting a target on your forehead while you're incarcerated. A broken vow inside those walls is a death sentence, as one ex-inmate put it clearly. It's as easy as that. This is when it becomes even more ugly. Minutes before the ambush, the block's surveillance footage inexplicably went dark. Isn't it convenient? Although officials claim it's a glitch, no one believes it. Not when everyone is aware that cameras in Georgia break down just when they should, and not when it coincides too closely with the attack. Prison guards even alluded to the fact that King was handled by someone in a position of authority, and made sure the cameras wouldn't record it. The Harris family's empire was already in disarray by the time King arrived in the intensive care unit. The public's perception was harsh. Headlines cried out. While gossip blogs ripped apart every aspect of King Harris's past, linking previous outbursts, careless actions, and entitlement to the current tragedy, he was attacked in jail. This ain't about King, this is about a system that loves to humble celebrity, one blogger remarked in response to another's statement that he wanted to be gangster. Now he's learning the streets don't do refunds. Children. As the internet debated, insiders disclosed that Ty and Tiny were yelling at each other, causing the Harris dynasty to fracture. T reportedly retorted, "You spoiled him too soft," after Tiny yelled. "You raised him too hard." Their marriage, which had been portrayed as unshakable on reality TV, suddenly appeared to be crumbling under the weight of their son's decisions. Even their closest friends acknowledged that this has been the most difficult time of their lives. Worse than scandals, worse than TV drama, worse than lawsuits. The story doesn't end there, though. Digging further, social media users retrieved old videos of King brandishing his weapons in music videos and live mocking competitors. The story changed. Was he merely a victim, really? Or did he cause this situation on his own? According to some, he courted the upheaval and is now paying for it. Then came the most outrageous turn of events yet. Others argued, no, he's a pawn in a much larger game being played above his head. According to a purportedly leaked report that surfaced on blogs, authorities think T.I. may have been directly responsible for the ambush, not as the mastermind, but rather as collateral damage from unsolved issues and old grudges. Bargains. If that's the case, King wasn't only drawn into jail politics. He turned into a tool against his dad, a son bearing the consequences of his father's transgressions. That's a plot that belongs in Greek theater, but it's being acted out in a Georgia prison beneath chilly fluorescent lights. Consider the irony. Ty, the individual who openly criticized King on Instagram and threatened to put him in jail, was waiting if he didn't change, and is now witnessing the most gruesome possible fulfillment of his prophecy. However, tough love is no longer the only option. It's a matter of survival. The adversaries are circling, the holes in his dominion are growing, and the rumors are growing louder as he battles to save his kid. But there's still one question. Is the Harris family's demise imminent, or is this the beginning of their most vicious battle yet? Because King's nightmare didn't end with the ambush, as insiders warn. It was just the start. From Atlanta, the word spread like wildfire. Now, prosecutors had fresh video. Film that purportedly captured King Harris himself inside the jail during a botched transaction. Yes, exactly. According to a smuggled hidden video purportedly taken on a contraband phone, King is shown with other prisoners bickering over a minor issue before fistfights break out. According to rumors, King yelled words that would ultimately determine his fate in the midst of everything. "It's not mine. It's my father's company." Boom. Context was unnecessary for the internet. Facts were not what they wanted. Those social media was enraged by 9 words. The storyline abruptly changed from King being a victim to King being the informant who simply brought T's name back into disrepute. A son who broke under strain and blamed his father is depicted in memes, threads, and TikTok breakdowns. According to rumors, Ty himself lost it. An unnamed court insider claimed to have heard him slap his fist against the table and shout at the lawyers, "Y'all imagine that. You'd better bury that footage before it buried us." The same individual who previously established his reputation as untouchable is now pleading with his own legal team to shield him from his son's sloppy speech. And it couldn't have come at a worse time, because the DA's office was salivating while T.I. was in a panic. Prosecutors were reportedly prepared to revive previous cases and drag out neglected studies, and utilize King's remarks that were leaked as the catalyst to light the fire again. Consider it. The son's errors and the father's faults clashing in one explosive package. King's situation in the intensive care unit, meanwhile, became a topic of national conversation. Reporters argued on whether he was clinging to life, unstable, or stable. He was allegedly unresponsive for days, according to some newspapers, while others asserted that he had whispered more damaging things, confessions from his bed in the hospital. No one knew the truth. However, the spectacle was self-sustaining. Like bricks on a crumbling wall, the Harris dynasty was under constant pressure from blog posts, leaked updates, and dramatic headlines. Then the families arrived. Small, weary, and desperate, allegedly became enraged and turned against Ty. References Ty incensed, allegedly yelled back, "No, you coddled him. You let him think the world owed him something." She yelled, "This is your fault. You pushed him to play gangster. You made him a target." The pair claims that she was close to the couple. While his parents were fighting in the middle of the night, their baby was laying in the intensive care unit, battered. However, beneath the spectacle, murkier rumors proliferated. Some said King had nothing to do with the incident. The communication was intended for T.I. Others thought King became a liability after discovering a larger plot involving guards, jail bargains, and contraband rings. The most terrifying rumor of all was that the leaked tape wasn't just a recording made by an arbitrary prisoner. It was permitted to leak. That is to say, someone in a position of authority urged King to utter those 9 words about his father. Someone wanted to expose the Harris empire. Social media was infatuated. Another popular tweet stated, "Imagine being T.I. building." Another TikTok with over 3 million views said, "Look at the way King said it. You can tell he's scared. That's not flexing. That's fear. An empire only for your own son to betray you in front of millions of people." The society was torn, half praying for salvation, half making fun of the family. And King's future became more bleak as all of this mayhem played out in public. Prosecutors alluded to filing more charges related to the purported video. According to prison insiders, King would be a walking target and a marked man if he returned to the prison after being in the intensive care unit. His last name was no longer a shield. It was a curse. One former prisoner put it succinctly, "Prison politics aren't working for King Harris anymore. Blood is what they smell. And it's over as soon as they smell blood." T.I. pulled threads like never before in the meantime. According to rumors, he pleaded with legislators, summoned famous pals, and even promised discreet rewards to anyone who might lessen the impact. However, he appeared more desperate the more he walked. The monarch of the South appeared trapped for the first time, and the internet adored every moment of it. The Harris empire was collapsing by this point. According to family acquaintances, the stress was intolerable. Suits reappeared. Scandals from the past were reposted. King's siblings were even pulled into the circus among bloggers who were making predictions about their futures. It was no longer only a scandal. An implosion occurred. Even worse, it wasn't finished yet. Because King Harris was ultimately still subject to his sentence. He still needed to appear before a court. And following those whispers, the ambush, and the released video, nobody knew if his father would survive or be buried by a system, his adversaries, or even the legacy of his own bloodline. That's the harsh reality. It wasn't simply another fight in jail. This conflict was a conflict for survival, a struggle for prestige, and perhaps a conflict for the Harris Empire itself.